Good evening and welcome to a revamped version of what used to be Radio Pitch and Putt. This is Frank Dineen here, and I'm joined very kindly by our president, Mr. Mervyn Cooney. Good evening, Mervyn.
Good evening, Frank.
Um, I'd like to thank you so much for joining me. There's an old Chinese curse that says, "May we live in interesting times." We're living in a time of the COVID-19 virus, and it's very serious for society in general. It's also very serious for our game as well.
Frank, indeed, as it's been said, it's once in a generation kind of thing. It is so serious, and that for our primary concern, I suppose, the welfare of our people and of those working on the front line of nursing and doctors and carers. It is such a tragic thing to happen, and I know that a lot of people are suffering, and it is causing right throughout the country and right throughout the world that so many people have died as a result of this, and it is absolutely tragic. And I suppose sport in itself, whilst it is the last thing I suppose on many people's minds, for those of us that are involved in it, it is to the forefront of our minds. Although we are, of course, conscious that our health and the health of our nation has to take precedence.
Of course it does. We are in a sport that has an age demographic that may be affected by this. I've also gone on record and said that our game does lend itself to being socially distant, and provides for ourselves to be socially distant. And at the time when we were in partial lockdown, I felt that it was an opportunity for us to play the game safely. Safely being the important word. But the full lockdown has been taking the advice from the PPI. My question is that are you in conjunction with Sports Council, with the Golf Union of Ireland? Are you getting proper advice with the areas that you're coming out with on the advice that the PPI issue?
Well, in the initial days of this as it now is a pandemic, I would have been probably in your corner saying that pitch and putt was, and indeed golf, were ideal sports to practice physical distancing. I would have been happy to see at least members play rounds of pitch and putt, observing physical distancing. But as the crisis increased, and more people were dying, and the warnings being issued by public health and etc. And it became clear to me that we should, as a national organisation, take the decision to abandon all competitions and to recommend, and I stress recommend, to our clubs the closure of their courses. The age demographic was forefront in my mind as well, not just in pitch and putt. It's for golf also. The age demographic is high, and whilst people in the 70 plus bracket, and I'm not too far away from it myself, well, a few years ago maybe, but we think maybe perhaps that we're a little bit more invincible than we are, and we may have underlying health conditions. So I honestly believe that I would be failing in my role as president of Pitch and Putt Ireland not to recommend the closure of courses. It's a hard thing to do, and I didn't enjoy having to do that. But I think, for the sake of the health of our people and our members and the people in the country, because someone could be asymptomatic and playing in a 4-ball or a 3-ball, and playing with somebody who has an underlying health condition, and they could pass on that virus to them unintentionally. But that's the way it is. So I think it was the right decision. We did consult with Sport Ireland, and their recommendation was in agreement with what we were recommended. I didn't have personal contact with Golf Ireland, but I was following their statements.
Okay. This obviously is going to go on for a while. I don't see any end to it in the next couple of weeks anyway, which is going to have a huge impact on our calendar. there's been calls for different things to be done with our calendar. We've had some people say that clubs only should have priority, that all national and open championships should be cancelled for the year. There's people who've said that, we should revamp the calendar, and now is the time to revamp the calendar using as best method as possible. What's your thinking?
First of all, I would say planning at this stage it would be more or less a meaningless exercise, because until such time as we get a clear indicator as to when these tough conditions are lifted, we don't know when or what date we can start planning at. But as I'm sure as we go through it, we will be given a period of saying whenever that time comes, we will be told that in 2 weeks' time, these sanctions will be downgraded to such and such. At that point, I would be contacting and making arrangements to meet, if at all possible, physically, but if not, through video conferencing or whatever technology we can use, to meet with all our county boards and to together plan and salvage what we can from the remainder of 2020, the 2020 pitch and putt season. That would be my aim at the moment. I understand clubs are worried about losing their scratch cups, etc., etc. We need to have them at the top of our priority list as well, of course. But we also have to be mindful of the fact that we do need maybe to look at salvaging something from our national calendar also, if at all possible, to save the national match play and stroke play championships at the very least. Would be something, if it was achievable, it would be something personally I would like to do.
Excellent, and that's important. You've got to give people some goal as well, I think, for the year to play. But
I think so. I think if I could just say, Frank, that in our 60th year as an organised national body, it would be a pity if we couldn't play at least two of our major championships. It would be slightly sad in many ways, but I do take cognizance. I do understand and recognise the concerns of the clubs. And we'd like to call on members to support the clubs if at all possible. Pay your membership fee. Even if that's even if you recognise you're not going to be playing for a couple of months. Absolutely. I think I was trying to make that point there also in the few words I posted on the website. If at all, I look at everyone is suffering. Whether you're in your job is gone temporarily, whether you're in business and you see a downturn in turnover, everybody, and there's very few going to be not affected by it. But if at all possible, if people could pay their membership fee, it would be sufficient to keep a club ticking over until such time as we can get back to normality.
There was one question that was mentioned to me, and it was the possibility, our club mentioned the fact that they were considering to not pay their club insurance for the period of time while they were closed. Personally, I don't think that's good advice, because the public liability is covered by the club insurance, and even if the place is closed, a trespasser on who falls or has an accident of some sort would have to be covered by the insurance of the club. Otherwise, you could end up yourselves in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. That is a very valid point, Frank, and we do live in a very litigious society. So if somebody did trespass on the course and a claim was made and there was no cover in place, that would have dire consequences for the club. Now, I would just note that in my own club's case here, our insurance was due on the 1st of April, and we spoke to the brokers, and they've given us a 3-month holiday to meet to allow us and keep us on cover, but allow us to 3 months to recover a bit and to get a few pounds in so that we can pay it. Now, I think first of all, a club should speak to their insurer or their broker at least, whoever, and discuss the possibilities with him. But I think you would want to be very, very careful in the public liability respect at any rate. That would be most important.
Club maintenance is allowed where possible. I know, for example, the Collins's course don't have access to the camp field, which is on complete lockdown. But where possible, I think club maintenance is allowed safely, of course, observing social distancing.
Yeah, it's considered an essential service insofar as that just normal maintenance. I wouldn't be saying that you should go out on big work days with groups of people or anything like that, but certainly to keep the greens cut, fairways cut, and a little bit of feeding, watching out for disease as we come into the spring of the year, things like that is allowed. Obviously observing the public health rules of physical distancing, etc. And maybe if more than one person is using the same machines, that we would have, that the club would have some sanitizing sprays or whatever to spray them before the next person uses them. And I feel very sorry in the case of Collins, because I know that they have been doing tremendous work in preparing for the ladies' stroke play, or for the gents' stroke play. Sorry, I beg your pardon. And they had the course in excellent condition. And I'm just wondering if they could make, have a chat with those in charge and see if just cutting the greens is allowed to keep the place so that they wouldn't go backwards on them, So maybe it's worth.
Yeah. The other, again, I opened this up to some questions from people, and I do appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and I'm trying to be as inclusive as I can with some of the questions with regards to things. The World Championships and the international events that were due for later on in the year. The World Championships, the rumour that I heard was that it was due for Chile. Do we have any updates on that? And I mean, even the information was sketchy even before this, but now I don't know what's going on. Can you enlighten us?
Yeah, well, Chile was in the frame. It was mentioned as a venue. And now I have no problem with the venue being Chile. But what I did say to FIPA was that before I would or recommend to the NEC an Irish team to go to Chile, that the promised funding that was going to be coming from Chile or whoever would be upfront and paid before we would embark on that, because I could not, in all honesty, ask the Pitch and Putt Ireland to fund that entirely. It would be totally wrong, because the expense would be so high. My own feeling on it for some time now is that it would probably switch to a Catalan venue. Now, given what's happening in Catalonia, I think the chances of playing a World Championship this year is probably very, very low in percentage-wise. Because I think our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Catalonia, and our friends, our many friends there.
Our friends throughout the world, because there's countries that are being hit by this.
Absolutely. But particularly the Catalan region have taken a very hard hit, and we just like to say that all of us in Pitch and Putt Ireland would have many, many friends in the Catalan region, and our thoughts and prayers would be with them at this time.
Of course, and everybody, we want everybody's safety.
Of course, right throughout,
and
everyone throughout the Pitch and Putt world, really. Because although we're not associated too closely with Italy anymore, but we do have very good friends there. And like if we think of somebody like Carlo Farioli, whom we've had very lot of dealings with over the years, and he's living in Milan, and it's at the heart of that outbreak there. And again, our friends in France and elsewhere throughout Europe.
It's a world gone mad.
Yeah.
No, we do appreciate that as well. I'm going to change the topic slightly. There was mutings and wordings of the handicap system and the new website, and hopefully the ability for people to enter competitions via the website directly. Do we have any updates? How are we progressing? We're hearing good soundings.
The handicap system is ready. It wasn't quite ready for the first Scratch Cup, and we didn't really want it to be ready for that one, because I wanted to feed in the results from that Scratch Cup to see how it would react. But it is ready now. The St. Patrick's Scratch Cup threw up a few little quirks into it for us, but we have found a way of correcting those, because the scoring was quite high with the exception of 3 or 4 players. The conditions were tough, windy morning, and it was only really in the playoff that the wind died down and fellas were beginning to score. So we found a way of adjusting the buffer zone to counteract days like that, because there will be other days throughout the year and years ahead like that as well. But it's ready, and we would be able to launch it as soon as we get back into playing again. The website is almost complete, and we're taking the opportunity now to add some maybe more features that we might have launched without, if you know what I mean. But now that we have the time, we're going to try and complete it. And I'm delighted we're working with somebody who's very closely involved in the sport as a club official and as a player. And so, you know, we're getting Chris's views as well as our own views, and together I think we're going to have a very good package. The online entries is something that's going to be part of the website when we will launch that, because you know at the moment your entry must come through the club. So
yes.
We're working on that. At the moment you can enter competitions and pay online, or registrations and pay online by EFT, is that what we call it? And
electronic funds transfer, yeah, or PayPal or Payzone or one of these things.
Yeah, and we're looking at the PayPal, and some of those have a little cost implication. So we're looking at all of that. Yeah, and we're looking at all of those. And but our aim will be to try to get as near paperless as we possibly can into the future anyway.
Okay, that would be very strong. Mervyn, I'm not going to hold you for very much longer. I do appreciate your time. I want to talk to you about one or two other little areas as well. You may or may not know, but there is a Facebook group called Pitch and Putt Chat and Banter that has kind of replaced the forum as was, insofar as the forum, which was quite contentious in its times, good and bad, has kind of been replaced by Facebook and the medium that's there. I know that officially the NEC may not want to get involved in that, but the ability, the point I wanted to make is that even in this time of downtime, something like the Pitch and Putt Chat and Banter page has encouraged people who may have fallen away from the game to become back involved. I'm talking about the likes of Paddy O'Sullivan, Gary O'Sullivan, the likes of Jamie Fahey, who are quite active on the forum page, but we haven't seen on a course in a number of years. Do you have any? I mean, we'd like to think that Facebook social media and the social media presence from the PPI, do you think it could be better? Do you think it could be more active? How do you plan on interacting with new and modern media?
Yeah, well, look, that's something that I've been discussing for some time with Jason, and we were developing it to a degree with Paul Hayes, something we were going to embark on, and then Paul unfortunately left us for a different parish, and I was letting Sean O'Donnell kind of read his way into his brief as such, and I'm all for as much publicity and as much comment on social media as possible. I wouldn't in any way want to downplay that, because I think it's important, and that we need to be actively involved ourselves with the members. I am familiar with the Chat and Banter page to a degree. Mm-hmm. All I would say is that, look, I mean, as I referenced to that convention as well, that I have no problem with criticism, good, bad, or indifferent. But I think people just be careful and be mindful that at the other end of your comment is a human being who he or she may be doing what they think is their very best. And sometimes they are, like fellas like me who've been around the game for a long time, probably have thick enough skin to take it. But there are some people who are not able to take it. So I would just caution that, just like by all means make your comment, but be mindful of the fact that at the other end of your comment is a human being.
Some of us are human anyway. No, I do appreciate the fact. It's just that
But
the
as I
banter
said,
page.
I'm very much in favour of it, and I don't have a problem with the banter.
We'll get you to join up officially. But the other thing is as well is that, you know, on the background while we're talking at the moment, there's a grand pitch going in there from a super player. I've got the Royston event from 2017 playing in the background just as a visual, because I did intend to do this as a conference call, but we were making some strides with regards to Facebook Live. We were making strides with regard to technology, with regards to, you know, the filming of the events. I presume we're going to use the technology going forward in a more robust fashion, and Facebook Live will be part of any future involvement.
Yes, we actually just discussed that at our March meeting before the clampdown on movement, etc. And yes, we've committed to using Facebook Live to promote our events. I think some of the coverage was excellent. I think Jason O'Connor been doing a wonderful job, and with a brilliant commentator in John Manning. I think it was something that was very much a good quality coverage, and something that we could sell or certainly put up on YouTube channels and use it as a advertising for our game, not just nationwide but worldwide. And I would be very much in favour of continuing that, upgrading where we can the equipment that we use, and upgrading the quality. It would be very much to the forefront of my mind to do that, and we will continue that.
Okay.
In both in the short term and the long term.
Hugely beneficial. I have one question that I'm going to ask, and it is quite pointed now. So take this as you like. The PPI have funds. They have quite a healthy bank balance. Is there any possibility of clubs who were in financial danger or in danger of being insolvent calling on the PPI for loans or grants of some stage to assist in survival?
That is a difficult question to answer at this particular point in time. We are not under conditions from Sport Ireland. We are not allowed to grant aid, because if you think about it, I think more of our money comes from grant from in the area of grants from Sport Ireland than it does from our own affiliations and registrations.
Yeah.
So that is a factor we have to bear in mind, and also, of course, Pitching Putt Ireland's income is going to suffer this year also, and going to go downhill. I would think that we're discussing with Sport Ireland on Monday. We have mentioned this to them, that clubs will be, maybe some clubs will be in financial difficulty. They are trying to see if they can get more funding, maybe to help. It won't be just pitch and putt clubs who will be in a bit of trouble, but there will be many other sports with the same problem. So how we can get around it, if you thought about it, if clubs are in trouble, what are they going to be in trouble? How much are they going to be in trouble by? Yeah. They're going to be in trouble by a few thousand. Yes. Now, if you put 50, 60 clubs into that equation, you have the funds of the Pitch and Putt Ireland wiped out. So we have to be very cautious about what we will do. I certainly would not like to see clubs going under, but I think if we think about it seriously, and we want to ensure that our clubs are there when we come back, that players get behind their club, as maybe, if they can't pay all of the fee in the one go, help them some way to give them a bit of cash flow. Because I think, I stand corrected on this, but I'm sure some of our technical people will maybe either agree with me or contradict me. But for the few months we're talking about, probably couple of €1,000 would keep the greens and the course maintained. I'm just basing that on the survey we did with clubs going back a couple of years ago, and what clubs were spending on materials. So, as clubs, I don't think many clubs should go under, but we'll have to look at all of that. It's going to be a bit like the national economy. We're going to have to look at it all when it's over. You know what I mean?
Well, the
but
point
for now,
I
couldn't give a commitment on that.
That's absolutely. I completely understand that.
Yeah.
The point that I would make is that as somebody who's involved in a small business myself, if anybody came to me for sponsorship in the current environment, I think it would be very difficult to ask for very struggling businesses at the moment.
I think so.
It's a bigger problem than pitch and putt, to be honest.
It's a massive problem, and I hope that when it's all over, I'm no expert on economics, but I hope that when this comes to an end, that we're not going to go back into a period of austerity. That in fact, that what's should be happening is that we shouldn't be taking money out of the economy, but putting it back into it. Yeah. And sport will bring in huge revenues to the state. But they will need money to continue to operate and to get back up and running again. So I would hope that would be the plan of finance, the finance minister, to do that.
Mervyn, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for taking the time. I hope I haven't been too harsh on you.
No.
I like I say, I was trying to reflect the questions that were coming to me and that people had asked. It's important that the union keep in touch with the members, with the clubs as well, and try to let us know. But we all live in a very difficult time, and please God, everybody is safe and healthy, and we look forward to seeing everybody in the very near future. And I'll leave the final word
Thanks
to you.
Thanks very much, Frank. It's been a pleasure, and I agree. We do need to keep in touch. That's why I was trying to write a piece there for the website, and we will keep updating. And we will do everything we can to salvage as much from 2020 as we can. And it's been I've enjoyed the chat, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Mervyn. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.